Okay. Morning, guys. Morning, everybody. Jaden, welcome in. The Circle, Eric, Mel, good morning. Welcome in. How is everybody doing? Happy Friday. Someone just called me Mike. Someone just called me Mike. They said, Mike, just go right into it. Welcome in. How's everybody doing? How is everybody's Thursday? RJ, don't worry, man. Welcome in. It is Friday, April 11th. We have a lot to go over this morning. PPI data was just released. Markets reacting to that. Yesterday's session was a difficult session. My first difficult session in some time, right? And I think here's the thing, right? Is I think our read was actually quite good. And this is going to be interesting. This is the easiest part is the read, right? It's the execution that's the hardest part. And I look back at my trading yesterday. I actually had a really good read off the gate, right? Our levels were pretty pinpoint. We had the right levels on ES, the right levels on SPY. Nvidia actually worked out perfectly. Nvidia off that 106 was a perfect entry. Meta short was actually really good as well. We talked about the daily 200 SMA short opportunity. We got the short actually yesterday at 565 for a downside play. But the real difficult move yesterday was the failure under a key demand zone and the inability to go short while the market was moving lower below a demand. I think was really key. Yesterday's session, we lost a major level, 524. We moved from 524 all the way down to 510 yesterday. And there was short opportunity here, but I didn't take it, right? I was in long here. I went long here and stopped over here at 520, which in my opinion is a very large stop loss. And I'll explain to you kind of what my mindset was basically volatility was crazy, right? So I was expecting it to reverse, but that was the wrong idea, right? So for me yesterday was not an easy day, and I'll explain why. Meta was good, Nvidia was good, but this was a way large stop loss, right? And I think even for you guys is trust the levels, right? If you see us holding level, maintain it, right? Look for longs there. But if you see us beginning to fail back under a key level yesterday, just like we did under 524, this was probably the best possible short yesterday at that exact moment I was long, right? So that's a very key thing to note is remain unbiased except to the levels, right? Remain biased to the levels is what I should say. So we have a lot to go over, guys. We're gonna talk about SPY's chart. We're gonna go over the ES chart. We're gonna talk about ES. The level this morning is the same as yesterday. A lot of things are the same as yesterday. Nothing fundamentally has changed between yesterday's session and today's session. It's just 5,300 ES, right? If we're above the level, we're bullish. If we're below the level, we're back bearish, back in a 510. That's my mindset today, right? Just simply our analysis was exactly right yesterday. It is just simply using the levels in front of us, right? So 5,300 ES, very big level. If we hold this level, we go back into the 5530. If you fail below 53, you know where we're going to. So we'll talk about that today's session. We'll go over this on the ES chart. We'll go over the Qs. The QQQ level, very big today, 444. This was that inflection point yesterday's session, the must-hold level. We're also going to go over the Tesla chart. We'll talk about Tesla, the must-hold spot. We'll go over Nvidia. Nvidia yesterday was my saving grace. My saving grace yesterday was Nvidia and Meta. Thank God I caught something because this was what maintained me and kept me out of the water yesterday. It was just 106 on Nvidia. Very nice level. And what does it do today? We're going to talk about the larger time frame bull flag. Okay, this is what I'm watching today. One of my top watches, just like it was yesterday, Nvidia 106. Now I'm watching Nvidia 110. So we'll talk about that today. We're also going to go over the chart on Meta. We'll talk about Meta and the downside that it come in yesterday. Remember we said, hey, if you loved it at 500, right? You respect the demand, you respect the supply, right? And what happened yesterday, right? The supply was indeed respected. The 580 supply was the level we rejected off of, and that's why we failed back lower to 537. I did catch a little bit of the short off the 564, 565. I didn't catch the exact high. The exact high was difficult to catch. But the downside play back under that inflection point 564 did get us a move back into demand. This was a really, really solid trade. If I had held this for longer, I would have been very good yesterday. But this is the thing, is like you must understand this. Analysis is easy. It's the execution part that's the hard part. And you're gonna I'll tell you this, right? I've been trading for 6.5 years. even 6.5 years, I still will look back. And 99% of the trades I take, I'm very happy with it. But there's 1% I look back, I'm like, well, you know what could I have done better? And this is a trade, I look at Meta, right? And I'm like, wow, I actually could have maintained this trade for a bit longer, right? Why, if I got in shorts here at 564, why sell everything at 554, right? What was the exact reasoning to do that, right? Why didn't we hold for a move back into 537? And this is the thing, it's a constant battle with yourself. The execution is the thing that's going to make or break you in the long run, right? And you can constantly improve on that. It doesn't matter how long you've been trading. You could be trading for a decade, 20, 30, 40 years, and you're still going to be going back and saying, well, what could I have done better, right? That's that learning mindset is something you always have to have. It doesn't matter how long you've been trading. So we'll talk about it. We're going to go over everything, guys. But before we do that, I want to go over our economic data. So today's session. So Friday, we have PPI, final demand, right? This is the producer price index. The data has come out. The data released is what? The data released is this. It is PPI 3.4 versus 3.5% prior. Oh, wait a second. The month over month is negative. Did you guys see that? The month over month for March is minus 0.4%. Deflation. That's deflation. That's producer deflation from last month versus the estimate of 0.2%. So that's an interesting flip, right, on the inflation side. Now, of course, this is just March data, so it's not measuring April data, but this is March data, and it's showing deflation from the month of March. Okay, so that's interesting to see. 0.4, negative 0.4 versus the 0.2 estimate. Right. Also, going into next week, I want to talk about this briefly for next week, right? Next week starts on the 14th. On the 14th, you can see we have just basic data, Tuesday basic data, Wednesday basic data, and Thursday you have housing data. So it's very routine next week. I think we're going to see some lower, I'm hoping we're going to see some less crazy moves, more systematic moves, right? This week has been quite good, though. I'm not gonna, the volatility has been high, but it's been pretty good price action. But I think next week will be a bit easier in terms of ranges. I don't think we're going to see those crazy volatility ranges. Okay, so that's a positive thing going into our next week session, right? In terms of the earnings reports, you can see there's nothing really to talk about here. You have Delta, that was Wednesday's session. Thursday, you have CarMax, and this morning you do have JP Morgan. You have JP Morgan, you have BlackRock, you have Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley. So what we'll do today is we're going to incorporate some of the bank names into our analysis. We'll look at the XLF, right? So we'll talk about the XLF and we'll go over this and see what's happening here. Anyway, guys, let's dive into our charts. Let's dive into it. So on the SPY chart yesterday's session, what happened? Yesterday, we had two levels of demand we spoke about, right? Remember we said this. We said, hey, there's a supply here at 550. There's a demand here at 524. This is what we're looking for calls yesterday. This was actually in my watch was to look for calls here at 524. And it was also to look for calls here at 510, right? Those are the things to look for, right? 510, 524 as your big demand zones, and 550 as your supply zone. Now, yesterday's session, what we did was we did the ultimate liquidity grab, right? But the liquidity grab is so different in this market than it is in usual markets. Liquidity grabs in a usual market is going to be a $2 or a $1 break under a level and a reclaim, right? You guys have probably seen it 10 times over, right? You have a level of demand, a very obvious level of demand, right? The stock is going to retrace that demand zone. It's going to break that demand. It'll fall about $1 under that demand. And maybe if it is going to be back bullish, it's going to reclaim. Your stop loss is under that reclaim candle low, and you can look for upside, right? That's generally speaking what those liquidity grabs are on overextension plays into key demand zones, because it's not always going to be your princess fairy tale trade where it goes right to your demand zone and rips right off of it perfectly, right? It won't always be that sort of fairy tale. And yesterday's session, we did a liquidity grab, right? There actually was a liquidity grab under that 524, but it was a $14 downside play. So if you maintain longs yesterday, assuming liquidity grab, right? Well, you probably got cooked, right? And even for myself, I was actually up close to 4 or 5K before I took my SPY trade. I was up, made money in Nvidia, made money in Meta, and then I gave back almost all of the gains on one trade. on one trade. Why? Because stop losses were kept way too wide. This is something you have to protect yourself from. Even professional traders, they can give back all their gains in one trade, right? And you can't let that happen. Look at the move under 524. This was a shortable move under 524, right? 524 broke, and you can see, remember we said we preach it, right? We preach the idea of the break and retest. And what happened yesterday was look at the wicks that had come in, right? You can see we broke under our level. We tried to hold it for a second, right? We actually tried to hold it, and there was the thought that there might have been a grab coming in here, okay? But then the answer was no. This candle here, the answer was no, and even just giving it one candle too much resulted in this from being like a 15% stop loss to close to a 30% stop loss, right? And that's a big difference, especially in 0-day expiration contracts. So just keep that in mind, right? You can see the sort of retest rejection that occurred here, right? Where it flipped from being bullish with a big capital B to bearish with the lowercase b, right? Back when it broke under 524. I mean, moved from 524 all the way to our demand zone 510. 510 held beautifully, and we ripped up higher off the 510, gave another retest short level off the 524. The same level we just spoke about, retest short off the 524, downside move, and then we ripped higher into close. That was our day yesterday. So pretty systematic day, and not bad price action. Not bad price action. You can't look at this day yesterday and say it was bad price action. It was good price action. It was either you adapted to the levels in front of you or you did not adapt, right? And on this morning on the SPY chart, it's 524, right? The level this morning is 524. If we're above 524, we're bullish. We're probably looking for a move back into 550, okay? If we lose the 524, we're back into 510. 510, again, is a bounce area from yesterday's session. It's another thing I'd watch today is to see if we can hold the 510 level. So again, that's what I'm watching today. This is your inflection point. On the 1 hour time frame, there are some people identifying this sort of move yesterday. They're identifying it as a bear flag, right? I can see it too. I can see it's identified as a bear flag. But even if it is a bear flag, the best short, again, would only come in when? It would come in if we break under 510. So this is where the best short comes in. If we lose a 510, you can look for this, right? This would be the bear flag play, under 510 for a downside play for a move back into 480. So if you're watching for shorts, you're looking at the bear flag on the 1 hour time frame. If you're watching for longs, you're just looking to see, hey, are we above the 524? Because if we're above the 524, the sentiment is mostly bull-sided, okay? Because again, that's the previous high, and the previous high turned into a support this morning in the pre-market session. So you have a larger term picture bear flag, but in the shorter term, you still have us holding 524. So be cautious of this demand below. And on the ES chart, it is simply this. You can see it is simply 5,300 ES. This was the level yesterday, right? And the first tap of 5,300 actually maintained pretty well yesterday. But you can see we chopped around it all day, and then it broke below it first. Retraced to our level here at 5150, which again was our next extreme low demand zone. And now we are above this level this morning. We're above the 5,300 this morning. And I think our gauge is pretty simple. If we're above this level, bullish. If we're below level, bearish. If you're looking for puts today, you're probably looking for this. You're either looking for a pushback into 5550, which is that high from Wednesday session, or you're looking for a move back under 510. Those are the two opportunities for puts I'd watch today. You can look for the bear flag, right? The bear flag play, which would be, again, getting it at the top of the bear flag, or you're looking for a move back under 510 for the retest rejection short. And this is probably this is the best possible short opportunity today. If we break under 510, again, I know it's a large range away, but that's very possible. Okay, so just be aware of that going into our session today. 1,400 people here this morning. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I want to see if we can get, how many likes do we have? We have 1,400 viewers and 136 likes. That means we have less than 10% likes. Let's get that up to 30%. That'd be great. Okay. So let's move on. So, okay. 5510, 5530. Those are the big levels I'd watch today. Because if you're watching for shorts, look for the bear flag back into highs and look for the move back down into 5150 for shorts, back down into 4800, right? Very simple levels, guys. And we must see it, right? We must respect the levels today and see how we respond to these levels intraday. That's what's going to differentiate a good trader from a bad trader, okay? So On the Qs, on the QQQ, it was actually pretty systematic yesterday as well. You can see that on the Qs, the must-hold level is 443. This was the high from Tuesday. This was the high from our Friday session, and we are maintaining it this morning. The 444 level demand is still big. This is the must-hold level. If we fail below 444 today, 443, really, I would say 441, the bottom of this demand zone. I will make it green so it's all visible for us. If we fail below 441, we likely move back down into the 422 level. I'm reading the chat right now. I'm laughing at some of you guys. Someone said Brett went with a safe trim on likes. You're probably right. Anyway, if we move back under 441, we're going to go back into 420. And again, the 420 level on Qs is the equivalent of SPY 500. So if there's any opportunity today in Qs, it's respecting the demand here first, right? So if we're above this level, you're looking for longs back into 466. If you lose this level here, 443, we're going to go back into 500 here, which is 421 Qs. It's 500 SPY or 421 Qs, right? Sometimes what I'll do for you guys is I will put the equivalent, like this is SPY 500. Obviously, I'm on the Qs chart right now, but if QQQ goes to 421, 422, it's the equivalent of SPY going to SPY. It's the equivalent of SPY going to 500, right? So just understand you don't want to be short back into this demand low. It's a very big demand low. So if you're looking for anything today, look to see how we respond to this must-hold level here, the 441 to 443 zone, okay? Right, so that's it on the ETFs. That is it. Someone said risk off on the likes. Yeah, you know what? I should be more aggressive. Get me to like a 600 likes. So what am I doing? 600 likes. That's a more aggressive. That's a more aggressive take profit. Okay, right. So what was good yesterday was Nvidia. Right, Nvidia was actually pinpoint yesterday. We had the exact right trade yesterday on Nvidia. I got in long here at the 107 area. I got in long here, pretty much almost the low of that candle. Not precisely, it was like 107 and change, like 107. And I got to move from 107 to that 108.50 area. And again, this is an example, right? Look at the chart yesterday. I got in here at 107. I'm selling here at 108.50. Probably could have held this for longer. And if you're in Hundred with us and you're in the chat, you know I was talking about this. You know when I sold that position, I was like, damn, holy shit, right? Because this I ended up selling out of this for like 20%. Ended up going almost 100% yesterday after holding the 106 level. And if you guys remember, what did we say in the pre-market? We said pre-market, what was the top watch? The top watch was the 106 demand bounce, right? So yes, worked out perfectly. But again, another case example. If you sell too early, you're going to miss out on some big gains. Trail your positions better because this was a case example of that. Anyway, trade ended up working perfectly. Moved from 107 low to almost 110 plus. Now, today's session, what's important about today's session is this. It is the 1 hour time frame. It is the bull flag that we see here in the 1 hour time frame. Does the bull flag amount to anything today to the upside, right? Does the bull flag amount to anything? And I think where we can get confirmation of this is if it breaks above 110. If we can look for a traditional break and retest now over 110, this is where I would like it, okay? I don't want to be bouncing this again, right? Because again, if this tests 106 today, I think it's not as beautiful as it was yesterday, right? This is, again, still demand. It still could bounce here, but I would rather take the long side momentum-based trade today. The momentum-based trade above 110. Why? Because it already bounced off demand yesterday. Okay, it bounced off of it, produced some really nice hourly wicks. Today's session, if this is going to go anywhere, it's got to clear 110. If it can clear 110, it goes back into the 113, 114, 115 area, right? So very clean chart, but again, we must look for longs above the 110 level, okay? Next chart, Meta. Meta actually was really good yesterday too. Yesterday, we said this explicitly, right? We just base our bias off levels. I don't care what your economic beliefs are. I'm not a politician. I'm not an economist. I don't care. Yesterday's session was simply 500, right? As Wednesday's session was 500, and Thursday's session was what? It was all about the 580. We said, don't be long in a 580 yesterday, and that was the right idea. If you flip that mindset and said, okay, well, Brett said don't long because we're back at 580, you're back at the daily 200 SMA, then we could have flipped our bias with that mindset and said, okay, well, if we can't go long, then let's go short, right? So the move yesterday was actually, Rav and I both caught this trade, was the move back down under 564. This was an incredible short opportunity, right? You can see breakdown, little bear flag play, got in short here at 564 and got the move back down to 554, right? So that was a good trade yesterday session, and the volatility again, just every time you look at these charts, you're like, wow, oh my God, like this again was another, how much was this point on a point basis? This was a 5% equity move. This is unprecedented, right? This is unprecedented. You know, as much as I want to say, I wish I held the 550, 537. Who's going to do that, right? Who's going to do that? It's very difficult to do it, especially obviously the market ranges are very high right now, but it's very rare for these type of for these ranges to be here, right? The ATR right now is 3 or 4 times as much as it usually is. Look how much ES moves on a random day, usually 20 or 30 points. Now it's moving 120 points. So as much as you want to say, I wish you would have held for this, what are you going to do, right? Normal trading conditions would not justify holding for a 5% down day, right? That's considered an impulsive move, right? So on the meta chart today, what I'd watch out for is I'd watch for this. I would say, you know, the extreme low is 500 and the extreme high is 580. That's where your big supply is. That's where your big demand is. The midpoint is simply where we're at right now. Therefore, I have no idea what's going to happen here, right? We're sitting at the midpoint. We're sitting at the inflection point. We're sitting at a demand right now at 537. If you're a fib trader and you look at this from a fib trading perspective, you're going to run a fib from the lows to the, oh, that's not a fib. That's not a fib. But if you're a fib trader, you're running from the lows to the highs, and you're saying this. You're saying we're sitting somewhere around the 50% retracement, and you can see if I were to add the 50% retracement here, right? Just so you can see exactly where it is. We're sitting right about the midpoint, right? So the midpoint of this massive trend up, we're sitting right at it, right? Therefore, how do you come up with a trade here if we're sitting at the midpoint between a range, right? Between a trend? Well, I think at this point, you're just doing this, right? You're either going to look for longs above 554, 555, right, above this high here for longs back into 580, or you're going to look for puts back below 537, right? Why do I say that? Because again, you just be targeting the high of that supply or the low of that demand, right? That's the only thing I do here. I don't really see much besides that. Right? Look for longs above 555, look for shorts below 537. This could be a good play today. You saw some bound up price action yesterday. So if it does break above or below the wound up price action, then I'd expect big upside or big downside. Okay, so let's move on, guys. Let's go over Tesla. On the Tesla chart, Tesla 251, right? Tesla 251. This is the must hold spot today. You can see the high here, a high here, a high here. Yesterday, if you looked at the price action and got a look at it, you can see that there actually was good trades to be set up here, right? The initial pullback to 251 was a long, right? Was a long. And then we lost 251. We broke down, we retested 251, and we saw a downside move, right? Pretty simple price action yesterday, all based upon one level, 251. Now this morning, it's nothing different, right? This morning, we were looking to see how do we respond to 251. In the pre-market, you're seeing early morning holds come in here. You're seeing 251 maintain. If we are above 251, which is the must hold spot, look for longs. If we fail below 251, then look for the bearish break and retest back under 251 for our move back down to 230, right? So pretty simple chart here on Tesla. On a larger time frame, we're just, again, similar to Meta, right? Very similar to Meta. We're just in a larger channel, right? With a big upside move sitting somewhere around the 50% retracement. So there's nothing incredible going to happen with Tesla today. I don't really think we're going to see anything monumental here. What would be monumental was what we spoke about yesterday. If it clears above 280, then I'd expect a monumental move. I'd expect to move back into probably 300 and maybe even 310. Why? Because again, the daily 200 SMA is right here at 290. And if you clear above 290, which is a very big inflection point, possibly 300 on Tesla. So again, the real monumental play, the massive breakout, the must breakout, right, is this level right there. It's 280. In the short term, you can trade off the must hold spot, which again is 251. But in the larger term picture, you want to see this really go and become a tradable stock that's not just simply in range. Look for a break above 280. Okay, let's move on. How do you identify IV burn, Christian? To answer that, you can't really identify it, right? If stocks aren't moving, IV is going to burn. Okay, so On the Apple chart, it's pretty similar. It's very similar to a lot of these other names, right? You can see here we have a big demand below, big supply above. I would not be long back in the supply here, 200, 202. I would not be short back here at 175, 180, right? Those are the two levels here on the Apple chart. And again, if you're going to be a fib trader, you're going to look and see, well, we're sitting almost exactly at that 50% retracement this morning, right? Add back the 50% retracement. You can see here, we're sitting almost precisely at the 50% retracement. This to me is actually, we're a little bit further away from it, right? We're a little bit further away from it. We're in 184 is a 50% retracement here on Apple. But what does it mean to us? It just means to us that Apple's sitting in range. It's sitting at the precise midpoint of a range. And we have to wait to see how we react to our levels, right? If it can pull back to 175, 180, we will look for a trade there. Maybe we'll look for longs there, okay? If it rips up to 200, 202, maybe we'll look for shorts there, right? But again, we have to see how we respond to these levels today to justify a trade. We do have a level here at 190. That was a level we spoke about yesterday. If 190 fails, downside, and that did result in downside move yesterday. But I think 190 is not going to be something I trade off of today. Transparently, is not going to be a level I trade off of today. Right. So let's move on. Let's go to Netflix. Netflix. People are saying Netflix in the chat. Let's go over Netflix. So Netflix 900, that was the level yesterday we spoke about. We said if anything's going to hold, it must be this green band right here. We broke out. We pulled back to 940. 940 was our supply zone. We knew not to go short into 940, go long into 940. And then 900 was the only demand zone we had yesterday that would amount to anything. And obviously that was what held yesterday. And this again is your classic liquidity grab, right? We lose 900 temporarily. We go to 893. We reclaim and rip off that level. So pretty systematic price action here on Netflix. And I think today, if you're watching this, you're probably looking for this today. Maybe you're looking for this little flag play to set up, right? If you see this little flag play, you can look for longs above 940, right? So if you're going to trade this today, look for longs above 940 for a move back into 961. That could be a solid opportunity today. But again, 961 is a big supply. It's a very big supply. So if you are long on Netflix into above 940, you are profit taking back into 961, right? 1,400 people here this morning. How many likes did we actually get? Let's see. We have 511 likes. We're close, but that's not bad. That's not bad. So Montgomery saying PLTR. Montgomery and Sean are saying PLTR. Let's go over PLTR. PLTR 80, right? Again, our levels are the same as they were for the past few days, right? 80 was the level yesterday. You guys saw 80 try to hold yesterday, tried to maintain. Then all of a sudden, you see a big upside play above one. Oh, that's Wednesday session. That's Wednesday session. Wednesday session was a move above 80. Today's session's 90, right? So 90 is a level. 90 as supply and 80 as demand. If you're going to do anything on PLTR, you're doing this. You're looking for 80 for demand, okay? That's it. You're looking for 80 for demand. Or you're looking for the break and retest above 90, and you are targeting a move back to 93. So if you're trading this today, you're trading off the 90 level or you're trading off the 80 level. Look for demand at 80, look for a break and retest above 90. Pretty simple charts here on PLTR. Very simple levels, okay? Right, let's move on, guys. Let's go over banks. I want to do an analysis on banks right now because banks are reporting earnings. So XLF first. On the XLF. Oh shit. I mean, this is dangerous, right? This is dangerous. Why is this dangerous? What's happening here in the XLF? What is this blue line in front of us? This blue line in front of us is the daily 200 SMA, right? This is the daily 200 SMA. You're seeing previously you've seen lots of reactions to the daily 200 SMA. You can see what happens when we break under it, downside, we reclaim it, upside, break down, downside, break above, upside. Now look at where we're at this morning here on XLF. This could be an indication of what SPY, because SPY obviously is a big part. SPY has a big chunk of it is financials, right? What's going to determine what SPY does, probably we should put more emphasis on the XLF today. What's going on here in the XLF? We're bear flagging under the daily 200 SMA. This is not good, right? This is absolutely not good for longs. This is something we should keep an eye out on today. Not even just today, but going into next week, is how does the XLF respond to the daily 200 SMA? It's simply right in front of us. It's a supply zone right here. It's 47. This is probably the cleanest chart I've seen all day, right? Look at what we're seeing right in front of us. The 4-hour time frame, you can see, right? A low, a daily 200 SMA, and on the 4-hour time frame, you are seeing what? You're seeing a bear flag come in. This is going to be pretty dangerous here. You want to see the XLF get above that 47 area. If it can get above 47, this invalidates the bear flag. and we likely see a move higher back into 50 plus, and that would be probably your best case scenario for longs, right? Back into these highs over here is what I'd expect. But as of right now, this is looking good for shorts, right? It's back under the daily 200 SMA. It's retest rejecting. This likely goes back into 42. So this is where I'd expect us to go back to on the XLF. Now that's going to impact banks, of course, because this is the financial sector, right? So this is going to impact your JPM. JPM reported earnings today. What is JPM doing? JPM is, funnily enough, is sitting right again at that daily 200 SMA, bear flagging right into it. Pay attention to banks today. This is going to paint a picture as to what we do. If JPM loses 220, this could be a very valid short back in 197. That's a top watch. If you are a bank trader, if you trade other names like this could be a top watch for shorts. Under 220 for shorts, bear flag play, move lower. Look for that today. If we do get above the daily 200 SMA, don't short this. We're just rips higher. So that's your inflection point. You could have a bearish sentiment as long as we are under that daily 200, and you can look for shorts back down under 220 for a move back into 197. Okay. GS, I want to go over Goldman Sachs. GS, a little bit far away from our level. You can see earnings aren't today. Earnings are actually on Monday session. So be careful of that. Anyway, guys, let's go over BAC. Last ticker, BAC, for our financial sector. Again, a little bit far away from our daily 200 SMA, but it's doing the same thing as every other stock, right? It's simply just bear flagging, right? What does it do with the bear flag? That will be determined by whether or not we're under 38. If we're under 38, look for puts and move back in 32. If we clear 38, look for a move back in 40. Okay, let's go over Amazon. Amazon, Scamazon, right? Little Amazon, Scamazon, right? Little bear flag, right? Bear flag. Oh, it's not a bear flag anymore. It's not a bear flag anymore. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, it is, right? Scamazon. If you got scammed, right? That's what it is. This is simply just a scam trade. I think now if you see us lose 180, right? You can look for the bear flag. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Does the bear flag amount to anything? Look for a move back to 170. If you break 170, look for a move back into 151, right? That's what I'd watch here on Amazon. I don't really like longs in this chart. I really don't, right? Unless this can get above 190, I don't like this, right? I don't like any of it. And it probably fails back low to 170. And if you lose 170, this is your best possible short for a move back below 151. I would watch that. I would watch it like a hawk, okay? Let's move on. Trills FN is saying go over Coinbase. Yeah, let's go over Coinbase. Coinbase chart. I mean, the bear flag, obviously, this is what you want to see. The bear flag came in. We moved back to 161. We pulled back to 140. You gotta look at Bitcoin though, right? What's Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin. Oh shit, right? I mean, this is a long if I've ever seen a long before, right? If I've ever seen a daily time frame long before, it's right in front of us, staring at us right in the face. I'm not a big buyer of Bitcoin. I don't really like Bitcoin, but you can't deny the technical chart here. Look at the chart. Look at the chart here. I mean, just you can see highs and highs and highs. This is the 74,000 level in Bitcoin, turning into a massive demand. Okay, so daily time frame Bitcoin can do what, right? Daily time frame, the least path of resistance is probably this, right? Back into 110. That's what I'd expect. So as long as we're above 74K, we're back into 110. So you take that same mindset, right, and go to Coinbase, and on the Coinbase chart, well, it doesn't look as good, right? It's not as sexy as the Bitcoin chart, but 150, right? You can say 150 as that area. And I would say on Coinbase, you got to just be a long-term buyer, right? I don't know. I mean, I would just be a long-term buyer. In the short term, look for a move above. In the short term, I just don't see anything I can trade here, right? I think that you're just simply this. You're just a consolidated buyer. You're just consolidating shares back here at 148. That's all you're doing, right? That's how I would not be bearish on Coinbase, right? With the way that Bitcoin's chart looks in the daily, I would not be a shorter of Coinbase. But I also have a hard time looking for longs unless it's back in demand. So look for longs here at 148. That's all I have here on Coinbase. Right. Guys, that's it. Thank you all for joining in. We had a lot of people here. Happy Friday. Enjoy the Friday. Enjoy the week. This was a really good week. Thursday session was actually pretty difficult. If you survive this week, you are a killer. That's it. Just these conditions are conditions that you can either make a lot of money on or you can lose a lot of money, right? And you're seeing that you can give back all your profits on one trade. all of your profits for an entire week in one trade. Don't let that happen, right? Protect yourself. Come into today's session looking for cash flow. That's my mindset. And I'll see you guys all on Monday. Bye, guys.